Hello, good people of the internet. How you do one thing is how you do everything. I'm sure you would have heard this many a times, maybe in some self help book, maybe via some self help YouTubers, some guides, your teachers, or maybe even your parents or counselors. By the end of this short video, I want you to unlearn your sticky attachment to the idea that this is always true. Let's get into it. Consider a very simple example to understand this better. You know Virat Kohli, the famous Indian cricketer, just in case you do not know. He started playing cricket when he was very young, probably even before his teens. Now, at that age, he would have had to play cricket, of course, play a lot of cricket, and also study. Do you really think he did both of these things in the same manner? Do you really think that the concentration, the application, the time he spent, the determination with which he played cricket was the same level, was at the same level with which he focused on his studies? I do not know the guy personally, but I think I can fairly assume that this was not the case. How he did his cricket, how he played his cricket, would have been very different than how he focused on his studies. And even now, let's say the guy is a multimillionaire now, of course, he has a lot of money, which would get invested in so many different avenues. Do you think the project of cricket is treated by him in the same manner with which he would treat all of these other projects in which he's engaged in? Again, we do not know the guy personally, but we can assume that that is not the case. How you do one thing is not always how you do every single other thing. The same is true for all of us, or rather, should be true for all of us. I mean, consider, let's take a random example. Let's say you have a kid and you have a day job. I honestly hope that you do not consider that raising a kid and having and doing your day job are equally important things or are equally serious things. I mean, if you take some shortcuts at what you do at work, at times, I give you that, that does not necessarily mean that you also take shortcuts when it comes to what is the best for your kid. Or even consider at work. I think it would be foolish to say that how you do one task is how you do every other task. I mean, not every task is equally important, equally serious, equally urgent for that matter. So, even here, I think how you do one thing is not necessarily how you do every other thing. Now, why am I saying all of this? Because I think it is very important for us to understand that quotes such as this, especially when quoted by someone who we respect, someone who, even if we do not respect directly, but we know is a famous personality, is a self help guru or whatnot, we may take such a quote to be applicable to all situations in our lives, to be applicable to situations where we almost naively may be misappropriating it to be true even in this situation. I mean, I do not mean to say that this quote is never true. Of course, there is value in trying to judge someone from what he or she does in a particular situation. For example, let's say if you want to engage in a business with someone, it seems like a good idea that before you make a choice whether or not you should engage in business with this person, maybe take them out for a game of golf or whatever. And if you see that person cheating in such a game, you know that if that person is driven by fear or shame and that led to that person cheating in a game of golf, it may very well happen that even during his business, that aspect of his psyche might take over his better judgments. And therefore, at this point of time, it's best for you to not engage in business with that person. In this kind of a scenario where you have to make a quick decision about someone, it does make sense to say that how this person does this one thing is how I will assume this person does every other thing, and therefore I want to be safer and I don't want to engage in business with this person. It's absolutely fine, and that's how you should be acting in such a situation. But I feel that a quote such as this, how you do one thing is how you do everything, if if you're applying that quote while evaluating your own choices, your own actions, it can lead to a lot of self-doubt, it can lead to a lot of shame even. Consider the examples that I shared above with you. Consider a kid who is interested in playing a sport, let's say cricket, and of course that kid also needs to focus on his studies, right? But if that kid is more motivated towards cricket, how serious he would be about his studies would not be the same as how serious and how sincere he would be about his cricket. Now let's say when this kid is having a bad day or a bad few days or a bad few months with when it comes to his cricket, which happens with everyone, and this kid comes across this quote, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And this kid might just feel like a complete imposter because he knows he does not take his studies too seriously. And if how you do one thing is how you do everything, maybe he realizes wrongly that he's not being very serious or very sincere about his cricket even. And maybe he starts to feel a lot of self doubt. Maybe he starts to feel a lot of um, almost like an imposter. And maybe the action he derives out of this is that I should start taking my studies more seriously, because at least that way people will appreciate me for how serious I am with my studies. And they will also appreciate, because I'm serious for my studies, I'm also serious for my cricket. Do you see where this kid went wrong with this quote itself? It should not have meant for him that how he does his cricket is also how he does his studies. How we do one thing is not always how we do every other thing. And that is where quotes such as this, powerful quotes such as this, can be misappropriated in our lives to take almost naive actions. And this can happen with the most experienced people. The most experienced people in their lives can also be motivated by quotes such as this to start to act out of fear and or shame. And if you think about it, fear and shame are seldom good motivators for us to get the best out of any situation, especially when they overwhelm us, especially when they become the governing traits via which we do things which we consider to be almost as serious as the purpose of our lives. At the end of the day, all of it boils down to discernment and honesty. If you can apply your highest level of discernment to a quote such as this, you'll be golden. Because you need to understand that such a quote, while it's powerful and it's applicable to a lot of different aspects of our lives, it's not applicable everywhere. It's not applicable, especially in situations where we might foolishly think that it's applicable. And if you're being honest with yourself about your own actions, about the root cause of your own actions, I think you're okay. If you can see that your governing traits underlying your actions are not fear and or shame, I think you're okay. I sincerely hope this video relieved you in some way. If it did, please share with your friends and family too, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already for more such meaningful content. If it didn't though, I think you should still subscribe to the channel and maybe come back to this video at a later point. Until next time, peace out.